Let me describe first in my 10 minutes who the Chicago Jobs Council is. I'm not going to take 10 minutes to do that. Chicago Jobs Council is an organization that was formed back in 1981. There were 18 groups that were trying to find a way to get the city of Chicago to use its capital funds for job creation for local unemployed residents. And these 18 organizations knew that that was not something that they could take on individually or head on. And they needed an intermediary kind of a organization to do that. And so CJC was formed to be that entity that proposed and confronted the city of Chicago about that. One of the results of that was an ordinance that's called the McLaughlin Ordinance. And that ordinance requires that this funny phrase, a good faith effort must be made for all projects involving city funds. 50% of those hired should be Chicago residents. The thing that any of us who've been involved with advocacy have learned is that getting an ordinance or a piece of legislation passed is half the battle. The other part of that is making sure that someone is held accountable to enforce it or carry it out. From that mere start back 30 years ago, our organization has grown to where we're now 100+ organizations throughout the Chicago area. We have groups that we work with now in Peoria, Springfield, Decatur, Rockford, DuPage. There's now a Rockford Jobs Council. There's now a Decatur Jobs Council. The Aurora group was a little creative. They are the Aurora Area Jobs Council. And there's the West Suburban Jobs Council. And soon, maybe if Steve is successful, there will be a Springfield Jobs Council. And we are engaged with our national organization, the National Skills Coalition, formerly the Workforce Alliance, in trying to impact policy at the national level. At the city level, we have worked closely with the city and what was formerly the Mayor's Office of Employment and Training, and trying to ensure that those funds were used to serve the individuals who we deem the hardest to serve. That's a little bit about what we try to do. Today, I think we're looking at not necessarily what we do specifically, but what is the future going to be like for nonprofits? And I think that I'd like to share some facts with you that came out of the Nonprofit Times. It said that more than 1.4 million nonprofits were registered with the Internal Revenue in 2009. That is an increase of 19% between 1999 and 2009. Some 628,700 nonprofit organizations collected more than $1.87 trillion in revenue and have $4 trillion in assets. The interesting thing as you dig deeper into these, you find out that health nonprofits are the largest of that group. They make up 60% of that, and they also control 41% of the assets. Education is second, and 16% of the revenue and 29% of the assets. Higher education comes in at 10% of the revenue and 19% of the assets. None of the organizations who the Chicago Jobs Council represents are in any of these categories. This is almost 80-some% of all the nonprofits. Our members are primarily community-based nonprofit organizations providing workforce development services. And it amazes me every day that in this environment that I can meet with them and they can tell me that they are still placing people on jobs. I think this conference is timely in that the current budget crunch at the national, state, and local level is having such a traumatic impact on so many of our members that the services that they are providing are just fading away. They're either closing down or reducing their services significantly. I know two major organizations that are getting ready to make a go, no-go decision out of all times right before Christmas. They may have to decide to close their doors. The hostility and that many legislators are exhibiting towards poor and disadvantaged residents in our community, I think is the reason why we have so many of these cuts being implemented at this time. I think we have some of the most insensitive legislators that I've ever come across in my lifetime. And I think that insensitivity and maybe just out and out evil is having the kind of impact that is devastating to those who are hardest to serve. This is also a timely conference because right now on the table, the city of Chicago and Cook County are discussing merging their workforce development systems. That is a topic that is going to have, or the results of that discussion is going to have a major impact on how workforce development services are delivered in this city and in this area. It will have a sizable impact on the community-based organizations that have been part of our workforce development system in this city for years. The dollars that they use under the Workforce Investment Act will probably disappear and be utilized to support that system. Those community-based organizations, if they don't make some kind of change now, are going to be out of business in the next year or two. The term was used earlier by Kelly, I think, collaboration. Some of you all have heard my definition of collaboration. Some of you may not. The one or two of you who have not, I'll tell you what it is. Do you know where the phrase or the term collaboration originates? I'm asking some of the students here. The term collaboration originates from World War II, and it was given to those French that collaborated with the Germans, and they were called collaborators. The definition being working with the enemy. And so here we are telling everyone, you have to collaborate. In other words, you have got to work with people who may be an adversary. that adversarial relationship may be because you're competing for some very limited dollars. But you're going to have to find a way to do that, or you both will die. Now, there is an example of a collaboration that we're engaged in now involving 7 groups. It's called 741. That is 7 organizations, 4 communities, 1 goal. And those groups have been working together now for 2 years. They have come to the point where, I'll use the trite term, they like each other. They like each other. And because of that, those groups are now beginning to gel and operate as one. If we do not have other collaborations of that sort in this city and this area, the community-based organizations that are providing not only workforce development services, but other human services are going to just be wiped out. Because my conspiracy theory is I think there is a national strategy to eliminate community-based human service organizations anyway, because they're seen as troublemakers. They're seen as people who go out and agitate, inform, and educate. And I don't think that's something that some of our legislative leaders want to occur. And so, yes, we will start paying taxes for gas and water and other ways to, erode our infrastructure. I'm not painting a happy picture or a glad picture or a pleasant picture for the future, because if we leave out here thinking things are rosy, then we will be run over. We need to know that a Mack truck is coming. And if you know it's coming, you can prepare to get out the way. You can prepare to do something. And that's what we have to do. We have to know that there's something coming, and that light at the end of the tunnel is not the sun. And we better be prepared to do something to make sure that we can survive that, because the services that we provide are going to be needed more than ever now as our economy sinks deeper and deeper into the hole. Thank you.